Hey, Shalom, welcome to Rakam Partial and Jim Islam, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Baha Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashavachach Wadash. I want to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in all sincerity. Back again with another video, and I'm going to entitle this one, Having a Moment of Doubt Doesn't Mean You Fell Off, right? Because it is just that, okay? Just a moment, okay? And, we're men in the flesh, right? So at times, under great stress and under great pressure, Satan's going to be there. No doubt, right? Satan's going to be there pushing thoughts into your mind and, causing you to question things and whatever. And it's at that time, you have to remain firm, okay, and resist Satan, right? But doubt is a normal thing in the flesh, right? We're not exempt from it. That's why it's a battle. It's a fight. Right, so concerning this whole idea that John the Baptist, because he doubted that, if he was the Lord or not, if Yahweh Shai was indeed the Savior or not, that somehow he fell out the truth because he doubted. Right, bearing in mind, like when you read this, it's not like John's core foundation of what he believed. He cast it away, like he just literally fell off. Like I don't believe none of it no more. I'm gonna, I'm gonna go back into the world like some of these dudes that have come in this truth and, lost the faith, right? Went back into the world and did whatever. No, that's not what's happening here. John was, I say, in prison. Like I said, we tired. You know what I'm saying? He growing weak, obviously, right? And he just wanted to know, he wanted to get confirmation that, that this indeed is the one that's going to bring deliverance. Like I said, he was probably fed up. He wanted to finish his course, so to speak. Right? He wanted to be over and he just wanted confirmation. He was seeking comfort. He was seeking comfort, man, because he needed it. Right? It's like I say, it's not like he didn't believe in the Most High no more. He didn't believe that he was going to send a savior, or he still believed, he still had faith and believed, but he just wanted to know. He wanted comfort, man. He was in hell, right, in the jail cell, right. So that's not what was going on here. He didn't fall out of truth just because he questioned, right? Because Yahweh Shai had nothing but good things to say about him, right? John the Baptist, aka Elijah the prophet, is of the elect, right? And he there's multitude of examples where men of the Lord, the elect, have done things that they shouldn't have done, whether it be committed some type of sin, or if you want to count this, they doubted, or whatever the case may be, right? But that didn't change the fact that they were the Lord's elect, right? It didn't stop them in their mission. It didn't stop them fulfilling what they were supposed to fulfill. It doesn't take their place out of of the book of life. These men were always in the truth, regardless, even if they messed up at times. And Captain Zariak of the ISUPK, right? I don't know, man. I don't know. We just don't know with these dudes anymore, right? How they come to these conclusions, right? And I'm just gonna go through a couple of examples here, because even the Lord Himself had doubt, right? Before He gave up the ghost. We're gonna get in a minute, but Yahweh Shai was concerned, man, and even running up to that, he was stressed. All right, but let's just get into it, right? But it was just read this again, just for the setting of the lesson, right? So Matthew 11 verse 2 said, "Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Yahweh Shai, he sent two of his disciples, right, and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another?" Right? He didn't say, like, it's not like he didn't believe there was going to be one. Like, he just said, "Oh, there's no deliverer, there's no savior, because I'm in jail, I'm catching hell right now. There can't be no deliverer. There's no savior." Right? He just wanted to know if it was him or not. If he was going to end all these things, end all this suffering, all this persecution that our people was facing. Right? I said, my man was in the cell, man. You know, needed a bit of comfort. You know what I mean? He's in the flesh. Damn, man. Like, none of us have ever experienced doubt before, in some form or other. Right? He says, verse 4, Yahushua answered the son to him, go and show John again those things which you do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. Right? So Yahushua didn't rebuke him. He just just let him know, innit? Just tell him. You know, but just tell him, let him know, so he can be comforted. You know? And that's what happened, right? It doesn't say John rejected him. You know what I'm saying? You got to reject the Lord, right? For you to fall off. You got to reject the teachings, the doctrines to fall off. John just asked a question, man. When he was in that state in prison, you know. But let's get some precepts, right? Sorry, I haven't really put these in any particular order. Let's see here. Right. This is Matthew 26, verse 41, and the Lord said this, right? So like I said, we're in the flesh, man. These things happen. Sometimes you have those moments where you feel weak. You know, it happens, right? Matthew 26, verse 41, watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak, right? And Paul talks about the whole war between the flesh and the spirit, right? It's a constant battle that goes on, man. And sometimes you just feel weak, right? And sometimes you just want to be reassured of something, man. You know, sometimes you need that pep talk. Sometimes you need that pep talk, man, from a brother or whatever the case may be. It was the same with John, but John was stuck in prison. John was stuck in prison, man. You know, shit. All right. But so that whole thing, he was going through shit, man. You know, and he just wanted comfort and confirmation, man. Right. So that, you know, if he just rotted in jail, I mean, we all know what happened eventually. But if he just rotted in jail, he can rot in jail, you know, at peace, happily, knowing that this place, you know, was going to go down and Yahushua was going to deliver his people. That's what it really is, man. You know. Let's see. All right, so let me grab this. All right, just to show you this, right? So having doubt at moments, right, doesn't really matter for the elect, right? Because it doesn't ultimately throw them off, right? It doesn't make them not believe, right? Because the elect have the truth; they're always going to believe, right? They've been chosen to believe, made to believe, right? So, but that doesn't mean they don't have doubts or they don't combat demons or you know they're not fighting to be fighting to believe. You know, it's a test, and a test can only be it's only a test if it's strenuous, if it's you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another word, right? But unless it's actually testing you, he's trying you, it's difficult, you know. And for Yahushua, this was the case, right? And even Yahushua had these moments, right? So let me read this from Luke chapter 22, right? And this is in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? Just before the Lord was taken to be crucified, right? So, I'm going to start from 40, right? It says, and when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that ye enter not into temptation. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me, right? So even this is an admission, right, from Yahushua, like, he knew what he was set up to do. He knew what he had to go through, right? But everybody, he knew, like, it weren't going to be pleasant. It weren't going to be good. It was going to be horrible, right? And Yahushua was afraid. He was stressed. Like, he didn't want to go that way. That's why he was asking, can there be some other way for me to fulfill, my mission, right? Because who would want to go and go through all what the Lord went through? None of us would ever choose that, And Yahushua didn't really want to go that way either, but it was what the Lord appointed, all right? And he was here to fulfill the Lord's will, not his own, right? So he remained faithful, but he was afraid, So and that's courage, right? That's courage, man, to overcome that which you fear, or something to that extent. There's a saying, a quote, or whatever, right? Or maybe it's definition, right? When you're to overcome something, right? And that's what Yahushua did. He kept his faith. He remained faithful, even though he was struggling at times. Because we're in the flesh, we're not perfect. I mean, Yahushua was perfect in the sense that he didn't commit sin in the flesh, but like we still subject to these feelings and these temptations. The Lord was still tempted. He had to fight. Okay. So we go through these things in the flesh. We fight, constantly, enduring with it, right? So anyway, it says the saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will be thine. So like here. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Right? And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven to strengthen him, because he was feeling weak. He was afraid. He needs to be comforted, man. Right? So Yahushua kind of played that role for John while he was in the prison. While John was going through his thing in prison. Right? So the angel was sent to comfort him, to strengthen him. Right? And being in agony, the Lord was in agony. It was manifesting as a pain, right? This dread that was upon the Lord, right? And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, right? Like really begging the Lord, like the Most High, to do this some other way, right? And his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground, right? Because he was that stressed, right? And when he rose from the prayer and was come to his disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow, right? So that's basically the point I wanted to bring out. How wish I had that moment. And also, is this in the, okay. Oh, here it also mentions about Peter denying the Lord, right? When they took him, right? So Peter denied the Lord, didn't reject the Lord. So I'm not gonna put that in the same basket. But he was trying to distance himself from the Lord, so he didn't get persecuted, right? Not that he didn't believe him or had faith in Yahushua, but he was afraid in that moment in time. He was scared. Peter was scared. Okay, again, it's the flesh, right? And he was pierced by his own conscience, man, because of what he did. But again, this was a prophecy that had to be fulfilled, right? And this kind of drove Peter, to be the head disciple, to that pain or that guilt at the time when he did this, made him who he needed to be to be the head of the church, kind of thing. So this is verse 54. So they took him and led him and brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed afar off. And when they kindled a fire in the midst of the hall and were sat down together, Peter sat down among them. But a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, This man was also with him. And he denied him, saying, Woman, I know him not. And after a while, another saw him and said, Thou art also of them. And Peter said, Man, I am not. And about the space of 1 hour after, another confidently affirmed, saying, Of a truth, this fellow also was with him, for he is a Galilean. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately while he yet spake, the cock crew. Right? So which obviously Yahweh told Peter about this. Right? And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter. And he's like, yeah, see, I told you. Right? And Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said unto him, Before the cock crew, thou shalt deny me thrice. What does that mean? That Peter, you know what I mean? Like Peter fell off. Like he made a mistake. You know? He effed up. You know? He was a moment of weakness in him. Why he did that? Because he was afraid. He was fearful. His flesh was sending all kind of fear hormones in his body or whatever, man. Fear signals. You know? So he was, he was trying not to get caught up in it. Right? He made a mistake. Men of the Lord, the elect, do that. Right? They're not, they're not perfect. They make mistakes. And we've got countless of David, Solomon. They've made mistakes. Right? But it doesn't mean that, they're not of the elect, or they didn't know the truth, or they didn't believe the truth, or it don't mean all of that. Right? Because the elect have been chosen, predestined from the beginning. Right? John the Baptist was always in the truth. The Most High had him set on a particular mission, man. And he fulfilled that mission. Right? He died as a man, the Lord. Like, what do you want? What do you want from him, man? This is verse 62. And Peter went out and wept bitterly because he know he fucked up. Right? He was feeling crushed at that moment in time, man. So that was, Yahweh and Peter in that chapter. But here in Matthew 27, verse 46, when the Lord was up on the cross, right? Let's see here, verse 41. I'm going to read on from verse 41, right? It says, Likewise, also the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and elders said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the king of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God. Let him now deliver him. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. The thieves also which were crucified with him cast the same in his teeth. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Yahweh shall cry with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So Yahweh was saying, like, to the Father, like, why have thou forsaken me? Is that not doubt in that moment in time? Because like Yahweh is not privy, like, to length of time he was gonna be there, like how he's not privy to all of that. Yahweh, the Most High, was just like, this is what you're gonna go do. Right? Yahweh himself is also being tested. Right? This is why he's worthy, right? You understand? This is why he's worthy. Right? Because despite knowing what he had to go through, went through it anyway. And regardless of how he felt at the time, because look, man, he's in pain. He's all fucked up and shit. Right? He's in agony. He's in excruciating pain. Right? And he's just up there on the cross. And obviously, same way John's in the prison, wanting the shit to be over. Yeah, Oshai wants this to be over, man. You think he wanted to be up there longer than he needed to be? Of course not, man. And he's thinking like, okay, I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm here. Like, I've done what you asked. Like, why haven't you done anything? Why haven't you done nothing yet? And so things are going through his mind because he's in the flesh. You know what I'm saying? It's not that he didn't believe the Most High exists or anything like that. It's just like, he's in the flesh, man. He's having those moments of doubt. But guess what? He succeeded, right? He passed. He went through it, right? And this is the thing. When it comes to us now on this side of things, when the Lord brings judgment upon the earth, man, it's going to be like the Lord isn't hearing us. right? It's gonna be so crazy, and we're gonna feel like at times, man, the Lord ain't around, that He ain't answering you, that He ain't come to get you, right? So shit's gonna be going through your mind too, or our minds, right? But we're still gonna have faith. We're still gonna believe. Because we're gonna be praying just like Yahushua. We're gonna be praying earnestly, man, for deliverance, right? But at times you just don't think that you can't see it. Your brain in the flesh is gonna be going crazy, telling you, man, look, this logically this isn't working. This isn't happening. Same way with Moses and the Israelites at the Red Sea. Like logically, he's like, no, we're gonna get fucked up. Every man was scared. Moses was like, shit, man, I hope, like, and I hope the Lord make a way. Like, you're gonna be hoping because you don't know. We don't know if we were the elect either. So it's just like, shit, like, am I gonna be destroyed? Am I not gonna be destroyed? Am I of the elect? Am I not of the elect? We don't know. So there's gonna be all these feelings in this body of flesh, man, and you're gonna be sitting there in the spirit trying to fight it to keep the faith, right? To believe that you're gonna be delivered. And it's like I say, it's just a thing of this flesh that you're gonna go through, right? And Yahweh Shai, exhibit it here, because we know the Lord hadn't forsaken him, and truly in his heart of hearts, the Lord hadn't forsaken him. But it's just like come on, man, I've been here, like, it's getting long, I'm in pain, like, please, but that's what it is. That's what it is to be in the flesh. That's how it is, man. Right. So yeah, even Yahweh Shai says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? But he hadn't. We know he hadn't. Right. We're just how it feels at the time, because you're there languishing. You know what I mean? So it's like not long after that, that's when the Most High took him. Right. It says that straight away one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, let be, let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Right, Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. Right, the Lord took him. All right. So, like I said, man, Captain Tazari, man, you're just being too harsh, man. Just being too harsh. Man can't ask questions and have a moment of doubt and all these types of things, man. Like, you're a bit crazy still. All right. As I mentioned this earlier, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 18. Let me start from 17. For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God. And if it be first begin at us, what shall the end of them that obey not the gospel of God? If the righteous scarcely be saved, scarcely, like skin of the teeth type thing, right? You're just about gonna make it, right? So up until the point you do, you're gonna be in doubt of your life, man. Like whether you are gonna make it or not. And that's not to say that because you doubt the judgment or the deliverance from the Heavenly Father, but you're gonna doubt whether you're the elect or not at that moment in time, and because you just don't know until that time comes. And we have to remember, like, even in death, because if you get put to death, doesn't mean you're not of the elect either. Like, so you might actually get put all the way there to your death. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you might not be delivered in that moment in time. But your spirit's gonna be delivered after you get put to death. So I mean, it's gonna take a real strong spirit to be able to endure all of that, right? But again, it's normal to feel a particular way, man. Okay, to have anxiety and fear and stuff like that, okay, not fear to the extent, like, I don't know, I guess if you're not of the elect, these things are or could be detrimental, right? Because if you fear like that, then you might do any kind of craziness, right? You might go take the MOTB and all kinds of things, right? But I'm not speaking in the fear, like, just doubt, uncertainty, because like I said, we don't know if we're going to be delivered. For the elect's sake, for the purpose of the elect, if they have these feelings, it's not a deal breaker. It really isn't, because the elect are going to succeed anyway. You know? So, what was that? Yeah, so if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and sinner appear? Right? So we're just about going to make it out, man. So it's going to be hairy for us, man. Pardon me. It's Romans 4 verse 7. It's the same. Let me jump up. Even as verse 5, right? But to him that worketh not, but believeth on him that justifieth the ungodly, his faith is counted for righteousness. Even as David also described the blessedness of the man who God imputeth righteousness without works, saying, blessed are they whose iniquities are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Right? So even if you wanted to make a big thing about what John did, like, he's of the elect, regardless, right? The Most High is not imputing that, he's not holding that against him, man. Just same way Yahweh Shai, you never held it against him, man. He just answered this question, man. Go tell John. You know what I mean? He didn't rebuke him. Like, how's you know? He didn't even say it like he told his disciples, "Oh, you of little faith." He didn't even say that to him. He just said, "Look, because you know his cousin is in jail. You know his cousin was going through hell in there, man. He just needed some comfort." Yahweh Shai understood this, right? Just go tell John. You know, he didn't rebuke him, and then he goes on to say about how great he is. No, come on, Tazariak. Right, blessed is the man, verse 8, blessed is the man who the Lord will not impute sin. Right? Ain't no one blaming John for asking the question, man. Come on, man. Just Tazariak. You know, because he's, I don't know. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. They have no temptation taking you, but such as common to man, right? Because we're in this flesh, and so we're plagued by these things that we have to overcome, right? Yahweh Shai was no different. Okay, he came in the flesh for that very purpose. He didn't come in the body of an angel, right? Because them things don't affect angels, right? But he came in the body of flesh in the seed of Abraham, like his brethren. So he can relate, or we can relate, that he endured all these things and didn't sin. Right, so these things are common to man, and the same goes with John and other of the elect. It says that there is no temptation taking you, but as such is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able. Right, so you might get pushed to the brink, where doubts will start to creep in and that, but you don't break. And that's the difference between someone that's of the elect and someone that's not of the elect, even though they might be in the truth, like at this very moment in time, kind of thing, right? The elect won't break over these temptations, right? Whereas a non-elect will eventually break. An elect will overcome any doubts or fears that they may have, and become stronger. So he will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, because that differs for it, depending on the individual too. But will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that he may be able to bear it. Okay, in this case, in John's case, all it took was a word from Yahweh Shai. John wanted the question answered. Yahweh Shai answered the question, and guess what? He is any doubt that he might have was now alleviated. He just needed some comfort, man. Like I say, he's in the prison, man, catching hell. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure he just wanted out. His life, he just wanted to be over, kind of thing. He wanted to, finish his course. And die knowing that the Lord got this, and we're gonna be delivered soon. I'm sure that's all it was. Yeah, but she'll make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. All right. And that's what the Lord does for his elect. Okay. Da, da, da. All right, so there's only really one other one that I wanted to grab, I think. All right, this is First Thessalonians chapter 3, chapter 3, verse 1. Wherefore we could no longer forbear, we thought it good to be left at Athens alone, and sent Timotheus, our brother, and minister of God, and our fellow laborer in the gospel of Yahushua, to establish you and to comfort you concerning your faith. Right, and this is why the disciples and apostles they did house visits, man. Right, not only did they write letters to one another, right, but they visited, right, to check up on the state of the flock, right, to see where their faith was at, right. So it's concerning your faith, the belief, right, because there's a whole bunch of things that were going on, right. There's people with false doctrines, and they were going around making sure that the church was safe from false doctrines and all these different things, and usurpers and whatever, right, trying to infiltrate the church and whatever, right, a bit like today. Right, so they would make these visits, right, to comfort them, right, because they were being persecuted and all these different types of things. So it's a checkup, right. This is verse 3, that no man should be moved by these afflictions, right, for yourselves know that we are appointed thereunto, right. We're supposed to expect persecution and affliction in this truth, right. So yeah, we're gonna feel down about it, or whatever, but don't be too fucked up. don't be feeling too woe is me. You know what I mean? Like, we got a job to do. You know what I mean? So they're just going there to check on them and to comfort them, to bolster their faith, man, to keep them pressing on, because they said to comfort them, right? And that's all it took. A visit from Paul or Timothy or whoever, someone established, whoever, to go there and just pep talk them. And this is something that we're supposed to provide as brothers in the brotherhood, right? Because some brothers need pep talk sometimes, man. Some brothers in mine ain't in the right space or whatever. You need to kind of break that, help break that that cloud, that fog or whatever, to get them firing on all cylinders and focused, says, for verily we were with you, we told you before that we should suffer tribulation, even as it came to pass, and ye know. For this cause, when I could no longer forbear, I sent to know your faith, right? Lest by some means the tempter have tempted you, and our labor be in vain. Right? So it's normal for people to feel weak at times, right? To maybe have doubt at times, right? But this is why we're here sent unto each other to comfort one another, man. Right? To try and bolster one another. And again, that's the same thing Yahushua did with John. All it took was a word. Just a confirmation. That's all John wanted. John didn't fall out the truth, man. That's just ridiculous. All right. Just reading a couple more verses. But now when Timotheus came from unto us and brought us good tidings of your faith and charity, right? So he brought back the confirmation that this church is all right in Thessalonica, all right? They're okay, right? And that ye have good remembrance of us always, desiring greatly to see us, as we also to see you. And it's why brotherly love is beautiful, man. Brothers, get together and whatever. It's beautiful, Therefore, brethren, we were comforted over you in all our affliction and distress by your faith. Right? So knowing that, brothers are enduring the same thing and they're enduring, it helps us to endure, as a collective, right? Knowing that they're pushing on and we got to push on too. We're all suffering for the sake of Yahushua, and for sake of, pushing at his doctrine, we take comfort in that. We can take comfort in that, man, that we're all together stronger in the spirit, enduring these things, right? But again, on an individual basis, man, we feel weak at times. Damn. Right, we feel weak at times, and we need You need comforting, and that's all it was with John. All right, so I'm going to end it there. Lord, this was edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.